present. We'll skip approval of minutes. First item on our agenda is Ms. Allison Ellis, Senior Vice President, Frontier Communications, on a presentation on the current status of Frontier Communications and its plans for future broadband service offerings. Ms. Ellis, are you connected?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent.
Ms. Ellis, this will be your first time presenting before us virtually. So if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Excellent. So I did share a presentation. Is that something you want me to control, or will somebody in the room control it?
That's a good question. I think we have the woman, the myth, the legend, Jackie Bland, controlling. So Jackie, which should we do? Her mic. Looks like her mic. If you can control it, go ahead.
Okay, let me just see if I can control it this way. Oh, it says I'm unable to present during this meeting. Let me try it this way, see if I can share my screen.
Small. There it is. Exactly a message. Looks like Jackie's on her way in.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. So it looks like maybe I can control it this way. So first off, let me say thank you very much for the invitation to present to the committee today. I appreciate the opportunity to give everyone an update. I'm Allison Ellis. I'm SVP of Business Development for Frontier, and I have been, one of my principal roles is community outreach, public-private partnership, which has been a big emphasis in the state of West Virginia. Maybe just to take it up a level and give folks a high-level view of where Frontier is at this point. Obviously, you're all familiar with the Frontier name. We've been a telecommunications provider in the state for a very long time. We went through a negotiated restructuring, which we completed in 2021. That was a very positive thing for the company, although many people don't often view bankruptcy as positive. It was for Frontier because it allowed us to eliminate $10 billion worth of debt, which was, weighing on our balance sheet, preventing us from being able to invest in communities, borrow money, upgrade our network. So that was very positive. We, of course, also emerged from that process as an entirely new company with an entirely new board of directors and management team. And I've been with Frontier since 2010. And this is the most sophisticated board and management team that I have worked with. So when we think about the restructuring, we concluded that in May of 2021, as I said, so that's very much in the rearview mirror for the company at this point. And we are very focused on our mission, which we call Building Gigabit America, and that is to our initiative to deploy fiber to the premises to as many locations within our footprint as quickly as possible. We have a public goal of reaching 10 million locations by the end of 2025. Let's see if I can advance this slide. So just to give you a company overview, West Virginia, is a unique state for us because it's one of only 2 states where we provide service essentially across the entire state. But when you look at the company, we have a 25-state footprint. Our network passes about 15 million locations. More than 5 million are with fiber. We just announced our earnings on Friday. We had $5.8 billion of revenue last quarter, and we are, very much solidly on the right path for the company going forward. So when I say that we're committed to building Gigabit America, there are a lot of ways that we are, as a company, totally focused on this. So the first is our new management came in and they rebuilt the senior leadership. So we have, as I said, a very sophisticated senior leadership team. One of the really important hires that we made is Veronica Bloodworth, who is our chief engineer. And we hired her from AT&T, where she oversaw a major fiber expansion in AT&T. So she brought her experience from fiber expansion there into Frontier, and it has really informed our approach to fiber expansion. So when we talk about fiber expansion, we have a fiber deployment machine that is the envy of the industry. We last year alone passed more than 1.3 million locations with fiber. And that was, a significant portion of that was in West Virginia, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. We continue to focus on that fiber expansion, and just last quarter we built to 339,000 locations. So we have our guidance for this year is another 1.3 million locations, and we feel good about being on track for that. The other thing that we're really focused on as a company is financial responsibility. Obviously, given our history, we want to make sure that we're making really sound business decisions and that we are operating the business in a way that does not lead us back into financial difficulty. Our Building Gigabit America plan was actually fully vetted, of course, by our internal experts, but also our creditors, their experts. These are the group of bondholders who exchanged their debt for shares in the new company. So they had to feel very confident that we had a solid plan going forward. And then, of course, the plan had to be approved by the bankruptcy court in order to allow us to exit from that process. And the bankruptcy court reviews it on a standard that the company has a plan that will not likely lead it back into future financial distress. So it just gives you a sense that this has been a very well vetted, third-party vetted plan. We have $2.7 billion of liquidity on our balance sheet at this moment, with no significant debt maturities before 2027. We are also very focused on providing a better consumer experience. And I'd like to talk a little bit about this because I do know that, customer service has been a challenge for us in West Virginia in the past, because we have a lot of copper network there. Copper network is aging. It doesn't do well when it rains, which it rains a lot in West Virginia. And so, we have had challenges providing the level of service to customers there that we really wanted to. The good news is that fiber fixes all of those issues. And we see that based on our, what we know about the performance of the network, of course, but also based on how the consumers are perceiving us. So we measure something called the Net Promoter Score. And this is essentially a measurement of how consumers feel about your brand. Is it positive? Is it negative? Are they likely to refer you to their friends? And across the telecom industry, the scores are very poor. We all know that connectivity is extremely important. And when you have a connectivity issue, it always happens at the worst possible time. And so you form a very negative opinion about that company, and it sticks. It's very hard to move that. What we have seen with our fiber deployment is that we have made leaps and bounds in the Net Promoter Score. We used to have a negative number. We're now in positive number, and we have had a 41-point swing in the last 12 months. That's unheard of in the industry. And it's really a reflection that not only is the product such a superior premium product, but also that we are making the right steps in order to better serve the customer and meet the customer's expectations of us. I also would like to add that we posted our highest net adds in Q3 of 2023. I believe is more than 85,000 customers. This is more than all other cable competitors combined, despite the fact that we only have 1/20th of the footprint that they do. If you compare us to Charter or Comcast, those companies are vastly larger than us. But that's a really positive development that we're very proud of at Frontier. Also, we're very proud that Ookla speed test results have ranked Frontier as the fastest internet and upload speeds in the United States for the Q1 2023. So again, this is on the fiber product. It really shows that this is a premium product that is providing a really fantastic level of service for consumers. You know, in these economic times, I often will get questions about, you know, how is the company doing? You know, how are we reacting to the inflationary measures? I will tell you that, you know, we are in an industry where our product is really important to customers in order to connect with, you know, their family members, their loved ones, but also to do telework, telehealth services. And we have priced our product at a very competitive price point. So we find that, you know, the demand for our product is still strong. We have also spent the last 12 plus months reinforcing and diversifying our supply chain. We have very long-standing relationships with vendors, and we feel very good about where we are in terms of being able to get access to materials and labor, and you know, we have negotiated contracts for those. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, you know, 84% of our debt is at fixed interest rates, so we're not impacted as much by the you know, the rises in interest rate that are happening at the federal level. So I think many of you are probably very familiar with fiber technology at this point. I won't go through all of the positive attributes. They are legion, but maybe I'll just highlight a couple of things. So the first and foremost is fiber is unmatched in its ability to provide a high-speed connection. All of our fiber services are symmetrical, meaning that the download speed and the upload speed are the same. We, in January of this year, were the first company to roll out 5 gig symmetrical service. So if you think 5,000 megabits up, 5,000 megabits down, that's a huge amount of connectivity, and most customers don't use anywhere close to that. But we wanted to introduce it into the market place to demonstrate or communicate very clearly to customers and to communities that we are building the network that they will need for well into the future, not the connectivity for today or yesterday, but well into the future. The other thing I wanted to point out is the better performance of fiber. So it is much more reliable than copper. Unlike copper, it does not have to be line powered throughout the path of transmission. That's a big challenge in West Virginia. As many of you know, particularly in rural areas, you know, a copper connection has to have power all along the path of transmission. So there are lots of points of potential failure there, particularly when the commercial power supply is unstable. We do have battery backup in our, you know, aggregation points, our remotes. But what happens in frequent power outages is that they get called into service more often than anticipated or expected. And so the batteries don't last as long as they should. And batteries are very expensive. And, you know, it's just hard to anticipate always which battery is going to perform less well than expected in a given time. Our fiber network is 99.97% reliable. It's not susceptible to water infiltration like copper networks are. So, you know, when it rains, you don't get static, you don't get misconnections, you don't get dropped, you know, connectivity. And then, of course, you know, the network that we're deploying now has the capability of 10 gig symmetrical service, but the expectation is that the network will support much higher capacity as capacity needs grow, because we can add additional technologies. We can, you know, we can switch out electronics like in our central office. So once we do the fiber deployment, we won't have to go back into communities and, you know, roll out fiber again. We will just need to change things sort of, you know, behind the scenes if it were to get better and higher speeds. Also, I'm sure everyone understands, you know, the benefits of fiber are well understood. You know, they lead to higher quality of life, better ability to access telehealth services, remote work. And also, leads to higher property values. We are increasingly hearing, and I'm sure you all are hearing in your communities, that if there's not a fiber connection at a home, buyers are really turned off. They want to make sure that they have the absolute best connectivity when they're making what is, for most families, the single largest investment that they will make in their lifetime. Sorry about that. We also, are focusing on ensuring that we have the right connectivity into community anchor institutions. It's one of the things that when I go out and I talk to communities in West Virginia and elsewhere, we want to make sure that we understand, what the community priorities are and what the and make sure that the needs of community anchor institutions are met. We also hear in West Virginia and a lot of other rural areas about the need for better cellular coverage, and the fiber deployment supports that. So what a lot of people don't understand is when you have a mobile connection, that mobile signal is actually put onto a wired network, a wired connection, as quickly as possible, because the radio waves, it's not a very efficient way to transmit or carry data. So, when you're in your house and you're using your mobile phone, it's actually using the data connection in your house through the, through your Wi-Fi connectivity. When you're out in the community, your signal is being transferred to a wired connection as quickly as possible. So we have been talking with communities and working to, help address mobile connectivity needs. We have relationships with all of the major providers, relationships with American Towers Company, and so we're able to bring the conversation on mobile connectivity further as needed as well. So just to give you some West Virginia detail, we have a very strong presence in the state. As I said, it's one of two states where we essentially serve the entire state. Red is our footprint, white are the little pockets where other companies are the traditional ILEC. We have over 1,400 employees in the state. We're one of the largest employers in the state. 1,400 employees is a lot of employees for us in a single state. So very healthy employment levels there. And we actually have been hiring. We hired more than 100 techs in West Virginia last year to support our fiber expansion. We have about 160,000 broadband customers, about 157,000 voice customers. Just for reference, the voice customers, that is that's very much a declining number. It has been declining for many, many years, and it flattened out for a bit, but it seems like it might be accelerating again in the last, 12 months. When people have a voice option other than Frontier, they select it. Largely, people in West Virginia use mobile services, as we all know. That's the vast majority. There's, I think, about 2.5 million voice connections in West Virginia. Vast majority of those are mobile lines. And then a smaller number are cable, voice over IP, and then an even smaller number, 157,000 about, are copper line customers. So our traditional copper fed voice services. It's about 7% of the residential market. So if you look at, what how much of the market we have, it's not very much. We do, as I said, fiber expansion in West Virginia is a big part of our focus. We have ongoing or near-term fiber expansion in 22 of the 55 West Virginia counties. So I thought I'd just give you a sense of where that expansion is taking place. In 2021, this is where we were just sort of getting our feet wet on fiber expansion. We'd always had fiber in our network, but we had not been deploying fiber to the premises on the scope or scale that we're doing it now. So we spent 2021 sort of learning, testing our processes and procedures, refining them, making sure that we were, optimized to the fullest extent possible, so that as we moved out into some of the more challenging deployment areas, where there was less density, or maybe there was more topographical challenges, that we really felt good about about being able to accommodate to special considerations and adapt to field conditions. So 2022, we deployed to almost 100,000 locations. So far this year, we're closing in on 30,000 locations. And these are, as this list shows, a mix of more urban, more densely populated communities, and then a bit more rural. When we look at 2024, we plan at least 12 months in advance. So planning is underway for these communities for 2024. Well, let me just start here. So as I said, I've been talking to many communities in West Virginia and across the country. When we made our 10 million location commitment, we did that prior to there really being any state or federal funding available for broadband expansion. So we saw it as a really, we see the availability of this new state and federal funding as a great way to complement what we're already investing in order to reach those locations that are a bit higher cost and therefore either are really challenging for a private company to reach all on its own, or would be would be the tail end of the fiber expansion. And so we participated in the first round of the MBPS grant that the Broadband Office in West Virginia held. We actually submitted 24 applications. We sought to connect 43,000 locations. We were prepared to invest $81 million of our private capital. If you looked across our 24 applications, we were only requesting a contribution of about 20% on average across all of the applications. We sought to be very competitive, but also to be really good stewards of this public funding because we want to make sure that it goes as far as possible in West Virginia, given that we all know West Virginia has some very challenging deployment characteristics and has a really high need for fiber services. To be just very transparent about it, I mean, we had very modest success in the first MPS round. It was actually one of our first grant rounds as a company. We historically had not been really involved in the grant space. So we were, throughout the last year, building our grants team. We have it almost, totally fully staffed at this point. We have engineering experts, we have advocacy experts, regulatory experts, finance experts, and we have gotten better and better and better at the grant process. And one of the things that is very important is that we have a close collaboration with communities, that we form a public-private partnership. This is something that is very, it wins a lot of points in the grant application rubric, but it also, it's also really critical to the success of a program because, or the success of a project rather, because, expansion projects, while we try to be as minimally disruptive to a community as possible, I mean, it is construction. And so, there will be some disruption associated with that. And it's really important to be working hand in glove with the community leaders so that we can jointly prepare community members for what to expect. So the two grants that we've won, and we actually just finalized West Mason. So there's been quite a bit of a lag between when we were awarded the grant or the grant was announced and when we've actually completed the grant agreements. So Boone County was completed, I believe, in the end of January, and West Mason was just completed like last week. So there's just been kind of a long timeline to get those grants completed. But through those two grants, we will connect 2,964 locations. Again, we had only requested 20% contribution. Just to give you sort of a frame of reference, Comcast was the large winner in that first round of MBPS program success. They got the vast majority of the funding out of the 20.8 million of the funds announced. They got almost 15 million, and that was at a 70% subsidy level. And it looks like it got cut off here, but for fewer locations than the Boone County and West Mason combined. We continue to look forward to participating in the West Virginia grant rounds that are upcoming. There's still some capital projects fund money to be distributed. And of course, you know, we're preparing for the big BEAD money, which is that $42 billion nationwide. We're going to get more information about what West Virginia's allocation is, hopefully by the end of June. But at this point, we expect, based on projections, you know, of other parties, that West Virginia will get more than $1 billion of additional funding to distribute for broadband expansion. We do have a pending grant right now under the MVPS Gig Ready grant. So this is the one that's very much in combination with communities. We were selected as Berkeley County's partner through a competitive bid process. The county is contributing $1 million to the project. The project is an overall $18 million project. Our subsidy request is 35%. So it gives you a sense of, you know, Frontier is continuing its trend of investing a lot of its private capital into these projects. That will be for about 2,500 locations. And then we have about 1,000 additional synergistic locations. Those are locations where we feel when we do the deployment that we will easily be able to capture them with fiber to the premises because of the way that we are designing the project. And we'll be able to, you know, complement the project with our own financed expansion. There are additional sources of funding other than, you know, future rounds of MVPS and BEAD. The ARC has some funding, Reconnect under USDA. And then there are also other IIJA funds. You know, the BEAD is an IIJA fund. There are also funds that are specifically related to adoption and digital equity. So that's something I know the State Broadband Office is working on, because those are really awarded to the state. So I wanted to just give you a snapshot of RDOF. So, you know, maybe let me just back up a little bit and say, as many of you know, we were a, you know, principal recipient of CAF2 funding in the state of West Virginia. And CAF2 funding was that FCC funding that was to bring 10-1 service to underserved or unserved locations in the state. And, you know, that program was a big disappointment for everyone involved. It was a disappointment for Frontier. It was a disappointment for community leaders. It was a disappointment for customers, because from the very start of the program, and it was like a 6+ year program, the FCC was funding a level of connectivity that the FCC itself didn't think was a sufficient level of connectivity, right? The FCC changed the definition of broadband from 10-1 to 25-3, yet throughout the CAF program, they were only funding 10-1. It's one of the reasons that we as a company, you know, we learned our lesson from that. And it's one of the reasons that we were totally focused on fiber, is because we did not want to be in a situation where you know, we were deploying a network that was under delivering what customers needed. We wanted to be sure that we were deploying the network that customers will support their connectivity needs for well into the future. So across West Virginia, there were about 120,000 RDOF locations. When I say we were awarded these, this was through a very competitive reverse auction that was run by the FCC. We won about 80,000 locations. All of those are fiber to the premises. The legend on this map, anything in red is a location that Frontier won. Anything in black is another RDOF winner. RDOF is also, just make sure everyone understands, while the announcement of RDOF took place some time ago, the FCC took a really long time finalizing the awards to providers. So we did not receive our final award until roughly this time last year. And so under the program, 2023 is the first year of RDOF for us. So the build out timeline for RDOF is we have to meet 40% of the total commitment by year 3, 60% by year 4, year 5 is 80%, and the full deployment has to be done by year 6, which is December 31st, 2028. So, you know, I talked about being more focused on the customer, and there are a lot of ways that we're doing that. We have introduced a lot of self-help features that many customers like, things like more sophisticated chat capabilities, you know, more comprehensive online troubleshooting. We have 24/7 tech support. We have seen our overall call volumes into our call center decrease by 30%. Late last year, we established a senior leader that is focused just on the customer experience through the call center to ensure that we are improving and optimizing our processes and continuing to reevaluate them to make sure that we're doing the best by customers that we can. We've also introduced things like, you know, chat so that, you know, customers, when they have a service appointment, that they can get real-time information about where their tech is what time the tech is expected, you know, reconfirmation of their appointment time. They can reschedule their appointment through chat, you know, all sorts of, not chat, excuse me, I mean SMS. But all sorts of features like that that are intended to make it easier to do business with us. Another thing that we've done is really focused on ensuring that we're providing the product that the customer wants at the price point that the customer wants. So when our new management took over, the first thing that they did was they surveyed our customer and they said, what's important to you about your, you know, broadband connection? And then we built our flagship offer based on that feedback. And this gig offer is that offer. So customers said to us, you know, we want really high speed connectivity. And so we offer gig symmetrical service. You know, this is our flagship offer. Customers said that they were very price sensitive and that they wanted a really attractive price point. Our price is $69.99 per month. Customers said, you know, they don't like additional fees. So we have included the router in that. There's no additional router charge, you know, with this offer. Customers said they wanted a better in-home Wi-Fi experience. So we partnered with Amazon to bring the Eero Pro 6 Wi-Fi router into our product portfolio. This is the most sophisticated router available. It uses the latest Wi-Fi technology. It provides a much stronger signal with, you know, essentially no drops or dead zones within a house. I mean, it can cover a 3,000 square foot house, no problem. It supports, you know, multiple devices in use all at the same time without any signal degradation. So, you know, people, there are so many things connected to the network at this point that a lot of times people aren't really thinking about what's connected. You know, an average home has more than 25 devices connected at any one time. These are things like, you know, your Alexa speaker, which people, you know, forget is Wi-Fi connected. There's the televisions. There's the, you know, your tablet, your phone, your mobile phone, as I said, is connected to your Wi-Fi the second you walk in the door. And of course, you have your laptops and, you know, other devices like that. We are increasingly seeing other consumer products becoming internet enabled. Things like, you know, internet-enabled refrigerators and washing machines and dryers. And what we know is that homes will increasingly become more connected homes and smart homes, such that, you know, we will be able to dynamically monitor and adjust, you know, energy usage and water usage. And so the fiber connection is what is going to enable that. And, you know, one of the things I guess I also wanted to point out about this offer is that Frontier establishes its product portfolio on a national basis. So even if we're the only provider in a market, the only one offering fiber in a community, that community is still getting the benefit of competition because the $69.99 price point is set at a national level. It's set based on competitive factors that we have at the national level. And if you look at, where our cable competitors price a gig, we're really unmatched in terms of performance and price point, and of course the symmetrical nature of a fiber connection. We also have lower speed tiers. We have a 500 over 500 speed tier, which is $49.99. We have 2 gig and 5 gig. And I think 5 gig at this point is priced at maybe $159.99. So, it's not hugely out of reach for people who really value having a high speed connection and want to devote their family resources to that. I will tell you that if you looked at even just gig pricing 24 months ago, you would be paying well in excess of $159 for a gig. And now, you've got the option of getting 5 gigs symmetrical at that price.
Excellent. Ms. Ellis, just out of respect for time, I want to offer the members an opportunity to ask you questions. We do have a 90-minute meeting today, and we've got one other individual on the agenda. So if you're prepared, you mind if we open up the questions for the members?
Sure. This was actually my last slide, which really had to go to the fact that we participate in the ACP program, which makes a $30 discount available to low-income customers so that they can afford internet service.
Perfect. Thank you. Questions of this presenter, the Delegate Espinosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Ellis, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Wonderful. I represent the Charlestown area over in the Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia, and certainly see a lot of your fiber to the prem deployment there. From what I'm seeing on social media, seems like folks that have subscribed to the service seem very pleased with it. I saw, or you noted that that you've experienced net adds during the first quarter. I'm just kind of curious about your take rates. What kind of take rates are you seeing, or are they meeting your projections of what you had hoped for?
Yes, our take rates are very healthy. So just as you said, what we find is when we go and deploy in a community, it's about 30 to 90 days before the social media, you can see the change in perception of Frontier in social media. I mean, we recognize and are very clear-eyed about the fact that, we have reputational challenges in West Virginia, that people have been disappointed in us for many years. And, that's something that we have to address head on. And what we found is that when we deploy fiber, because the experience is so positive and because the price point is so attractive, and because we've really enhanced our customer service, that we're able to win customers over. So we have seen, as you said, total turnaround in our reputation in fiberized areas. Obviously we can't be everywhere all at once, but we are, working very hard to deploy as quickly as possible. And I think in West Virginia, it's something like, we do an average of 300,000 feet of fiber per week. So, a lot of activity.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate your recognition of the challenges to kind of repair that reputation, and do appreciate your investment in West Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Delegate Burkhammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your presentation as well. I'm going to a little bit reiterate what he said. Appreciate you investing in infrastructure and jobs in the state. And as well, Frontier was kind of a word that I couldn't say in public for a long time in my area. But we're part of the Weston program that you've been deploying, and I've heard nothing but great things out of that. So I want to pass that along, and reputation is beginning to shift in our area. But with that, in your one slide, it said Weston, in 2023, it was part of the RDOF program. And maybe we can talk more after the meeting, but the Weston RDOF is actually like almost the entire rural area outside of Weston. Is that what you're talking about, maybe working out of Weston and then working into the RDOF areas, or are you just talking of Weston area?
It's both. In Weston, it's both. So, you know, obviously to reach the RDOF areas, because they're more rural, we have to pass locations that are closer in town. And so we really look to combine the activities so that we can maximize the, you know, the time that the crews are there and connecting as many people as possible. With RDOF and, you know, just the expansion in general, in a given community, we're likely to have to do it in phases, right? So we'll have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, because as I said, we can't be everywhere all at once. But, you know, we do expect to have in those locations where I've highlighted them, you know, expansion that's RDOF and self-financed as well.
Okay, further, are they going to see the same performance as you go into the rural areas, the same performance across the board?
Absolutely. They're fiber to the premises connections. Unlike copper, fiber is not distance sensitive. So you get the same connection, same speed, whether you're 1,000 feet from our central office or 3,000 feet from our central office. So that's the beauty of fiber. It totally eliminates that signal degradation issue that copper, you know, technology just suffers from.
Okay, last question, I promise, for everybody else, but pricing looks great. I mean, compared to what is out there. How long is that pricing good for? How long do you see being able to compete at a $69.99 for 1 gig? And I'm just concerned, I'll say, that you're going to get everybody in there and then a year later or 2 years later, we're going to be at a really high price.
Yeah. Well, you know, we are constantly evaluating our product portfolio. I mean, a good example is that we rolled out the 5 gig in January. We were actually the first company last February to roll out 2 gig symmetrical. So, you know, we're constantly looking at what consumers want and what, you know, what the product capability is. And so we're constantly, you know, evaluating you know, what consumers need. I will say that $69.99 price point, I mean, it's been pretty steady for about a year. I don't have a crystal ball. I can't look, you know, 2 or 3 years down the road, but I can tell you that we want to make sure that we are providing tremendous value to consumers. So that's always at forefront of our thinking process on that.
All right. Again, thank you for your time and appreciate what you're doing here in our state.
Sure. The other thing I would just say is we do not require customers to sign a contract with us. So, you know, they have the ability, you know, to switch to another provider if they want to. They don't, because fiber is a much better product than anyone else is offering. But, you know, that is something that is in place for consumers.
Thank you. Delegate Hillenbrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Ms. Ellis. I got to start with your background. Where are you located from right now?
Well, this is actually a fake background, but it is off the coast of North Carolina.
Okay, because that certainly doesn't look like our topography here.
No.
I'm curious if you could provide us a breakdown on those early statistics you gave us that were national for West Virginia specifically. If you don't mind to take that as a homework item. Secondly, can you tell me how you plan to deliver that final mile of high-speed internet to most of our customers? The vast majority of the state are rural. I'll give you a perfect example. You showed Charlestown as one of your locations. That's a hard 2-hour drive from my house. That final mile is the hard part. How do you plan to deliver that? And I'll give you an opportunity to answer that question.
Sure. Well, I mean, we're doing that now. So, you know, part of it is we're working from the center of our network, and we're continuing to build fiber out further and further. So we just can, you know, connect into the fiber that we've deployed.
So that means you'll deliver fiber to the final mile?
Yeah, that's what we're doing now. RDOF is like it. RDOF is an example. That's all fiber to the premises. Now,
Okay.
You know, there will.
If I could. What are the typical delivered rural speeds?
They're 1,000 megabits over 1,000 megabits. It's
Very
not
good.
distance sensitive, so it's the exact same as somebody in town.
And then final question, if I could, so I can give others an opportunity. Post RDOF award, I had a constituent who's a president of a large homeowners association 6,000 acres, reach out to Frontier, made an appointment, tried to convince them that, no, this is not going to be an easy delivery. We're in the middle of a mountain with rocks. We don't have dirt. And they were told, no problem, et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, nobody ever showed up. He made lots of phone calls and all the rest of that, never got a phone call back. He's, of course, on my phone frequently asking, so who do I complain to? Who does he reach out to when Frontier says, never mind, that didn't happen?
Yeah, you can absolutely reach out to me, and I can make sure that you have my contact information and I can get them connected to the right person. One thing you raised, which I did want to discuss, which is, when we're doing deployment, we're doing fiber to the premises, period. There will be some rural locations that are so expensive and so cost prohibitive to deploy fiber to, that an alternative technology will be the solution for those. That will be more of a niche solution, something like fixed wireless, or I should say a niche case, not a niche solution. Fixed wireless is, a solution in use today. Starlink, for example, low Earth orbit satellites. When the NTIA establishes the funding under BEAD, the state will have to establish what they consider to be their high cost threshold. So the amount of money that they will contribute towards a fiber connection at a home. And if a particular location is in excess of that, then an alternative technology would be funded for that location, not a fiber connection.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Elliot Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis, for your presentation. I hate to throw a little more rain on your parade, but where I live in a rural area, we have phone service, combination of wire and fiber, but we have people who are unable to get a landline phone. They tell them that the line is overloaded and they have to wait for somebody to die or somebody to move to get a phone. And I tell you what, my download speed is 1.65. So, and that's when it's working. It's constantly on and off, constantly on and off. And we're serviced out of the Clarksburg area. And there's no cell phone service out that way. We live in the mountains. And they say that they can't afford to put, what they tell us, they can't afford to run the fiber optic up Route 20 over to where we live. Live about 17 miles out of Clarksburg. So
well, I would love to talk with you more about that, and make a connection with you after this hearing. That's exactly the kind of situation where it would be really important for Frontier to work closely with the community and community leaders. That's the kind of project that the state of West Virginia through the broadband office is looking to fund. So that's an instance where, potentially we could bring fiber to those locations, which, provides a much better internet and voice experience. And we would do that in collaboration with the community and with the state, Frontier contributing some capital to the project and then also receiving some grant funding in order to make that project feasible.
they're deprived of law enforcement or EMS. If they have emergency, they would have to go to somebody else's house and use the phone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further questions of this presenter? If not, I have a few, and I'll ask you if you don't have this immediately available, Ms. Ellis, if you would make it available to us, and I'll share it with the committee. You made reference to the bankruptcy proceedings going back a few years ago. I know during those negotiations with PSC, there were certain targets for builds, for investment in the network, those sorts of things, all with private capital, right? So two items. Number one, do you have in front of you? Can you give this to us now, or can you get it to me afterwards? The total investment as compared to what was committed to in the bankruptcy proceedings. That would be the first thing.
I don't have that. I know we committed to spending $200 million and connecting 150,000 locations. I believe we've satisfied both already, and, ahead of schedule, but I can confirm with our filings with the PSC.
Perfect. Thank you. And then secondarily, do you have a total on private dollar investment in the state of West Virginia overall, as compared to pre-bankruptcy or even compared to your competitors? So exclusive of grants, but just the private capital.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that we publicly announced at the beginning of this year that we intended to invest $100 million in West Virginia in 2023 alone and connect 100,000, past 100,000 locations with fiber. So, that's certainly a baseline.
Certainly. Thank you. Well, as a point of personal privilege, I know that we've tried to be very direct with Frontier. We do appreciate you and your company attempting to rise to meet the challenge. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share an update with the committee.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis, thank you so much. With that, we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is a presentation from Mr. Bill Gardner, Associate Professor of Marshall University School of Forensic and Criminal Justice Sciences, regarding the Marshall Department of Cyber Forensics and Security, its goals and programs available to its students. Mr. Gardner, if you'd like to come up. Push the podium. Actually, as a matter of fact, Mr. Clerk, speaking of the roles, did we ever get a full form? I need one more senator. It's the Senate's fault.
We've also lost several members.
Mr. Gardner, if you would please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. The floor is yours.
So welcome to Marshall University and welcome to Huntington, West Virginia. Sorry about the rain. With all apologies to John F. Kennedy. The sun does not always shine in Huntington, but people do. My name is Bill Gardner. I am the interim chair of an undergraduate program director for cyber forensics and security program here at Marshall University. We're one part of the cybersecurity puzzle. So I will speak specifically about my program, generally about cybersecurity at Marshall. But we're one part of the puzzle. Our curriculum is delivered through a hands-on environment using 3 tools: $1 million cyber range that was given to us by Benefactor for free use, which is a real game changer, which simulates cyber attacks and helps us train students. Also, the West Virginia National Guard has taken some training on the cyber range, as well as that cyber range and the work we've been doing here. We've been able to secure over $7 million in federal contracts with the Department of Homeland Security over the past 3 or 4 years, provide internship and research opportunities for our students. We were the 2000 National Cyber League champion. Unfortunately, COVID happened about the time we received the trophy, so there were no parades. But anyway, our team consistently finishes in the top 1 percentile. The final results aren't in for this year, but we did very well. We are currently have been certified plan of study by the NSA as an NSA Center of Cybersecurity or Center of Cyber Excellence. So that's new. We're waiting for the final award to come out, which will be hopefully in the next month or 2. Which will be awesome and a game changer. We're the first program inside the university to receive that illustrious award. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with any money, but you get all through the world. We're working with U.S. Cyber Command and also the West Virginia National Guard. The Cyber Command has pledged $5 million for funding this year, with that increasing over the next 2 or 3 years
$14 million the next year, $15 million the third year, to help us build capacity to pipeline students to Cyber Command. Specifically, they've already started hiring our students as interns at NISA, which is the organization that defends the DoD networks. We're also in the process of building a security operations center with this money for state and local government, and that's a partnership with West Virginia State University. Specifically, we're looking to help cities and counties, and even the state, although the state has a very good cybersecurity program. Your CIO or CTO is one of our graduates. But we want to help state and local government through the Security Operations Center, and that will be staffed by our students. We have announced a new Institute for Cybersecurity, and with that comes a building on the corner of 4th Avenue and 16th Street, and that's part of the public-private partnership that Brad has announced about the Innovation Corridor. So we have not broken ground on that yet, I think because of the road work out there, but it should happen very soon. So our program emphasizes problem-solving skills, hands-on opportunities. We are very different in that we don't require a high level of math. We're not engineers. I always say that computer science folks are building the planes. I'm teaching the pilots to fly. So our students, when they graduate, get a job immediately. And there's a large number of open cybersecurity positions, hundreds of thousands in the United States. We actually have students now who are getting hired before they graduate, both the undergraduate and the graduate level. We have internship possibilities as well. We have interns in the West Virginia State Police Digital Lab, which is located at our campus at the Forensic Science Center. We've been doing innovative things such as research in vehicle forensics, the dark web, and mobile devices. We also have a women in cyber group, which is new. When I started in the program in 2013, we were actually in a bigger program, and we had probably 60 students. We have grown over time. We've grown to as big as 120 students at one time. We have shrunk because of the pandemic. We're growing again. Women in cyber is a very important part of that because we're trying to make the field more diverse. When I started, there were probably 1 or 2 women in the program. Now it's at least 50%. So we're getting more and more women in cybersecurity. And I'd invite you to come over and tour. It's quit raining. If you have a chance, I'm more than happy to show you our wonderful facilities. A lot of our facilities have been paid for by federal government money, specifically. I'd like to thank Senator Capito with helping us get funding through the Department of Homeland Security and also help with the Cyber Command partnership. And that's my brief statement.
Any questions from members of the committee regarding the offerings here at Marshall and cyber forensics?
Well, we are cyber forensics and security.
And
so
security.
We do both. And security. And I'm the hacker side. I do the security side. My colleagues on the forensic side are former law enforcement. But I come from the hacker underground. My player Jefferson is high. Bill, I'm a hacker, the good kind, not the bad kind. So we help chase down those people that are doing bad things to the government's networks, as you also do private networks. So
I believe the hacker on the golf course, my co-chairman, Senator Quinn, has a question.
Mr. Gardner, thanks for hosting us and thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon. Can you elaborate on some of the private companies looking to hire your students? I know you elaborated on your state partnerships. Yeah. Just curious for those of us who don't sleep here at night. Just curious to know those private companies and if companies around the state are hiring your employees or your graduates to move throughout the state. Just curious. To know.
And we're trying to get more opportunity for people to stay here in the state. So one of the features of the ICS building is we're going to co-locate with private industry in that building. So some of some of the cybersecurity firms that are still here in West Virginia can locate there and also use our students to center and hire our students. Some of the places our students are, of course, NASA, FBI, Department of Defense, Best Buy, who has their own cyber infrastructure they need to secure the payment systems. Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a major defense contractor, as well as a major player in defending private networks. Dell SecureWorks, Expel, which is a company in Virginia that's hired 30 or more of our students probably in the last couple of years. They defend private networks. So I think, well, all it's under NDA, I can't say who, but there would be names that you would know, like major gas stations, hotels, etc. So that's what our students are doing mainly. CloudStrike, Agda Forensics, West Virginia State Police has also hired our students.
So just curious, we have a lot of remote work, or at least we're trying to have remote work opportunities. Are most of these job opportunities in person? Do you know if these are remote work opportunities?
These are now remote. Expel, for example, I think they're 100% remote. Even this stuff they're doing with the Department of Defense has been remote internships.
And final question, you might have said this earlier. What's your graduation? How many students do you graduate each year?
Hang on a second, I'll give you a good idea. It depends. We were over 100 students in 2018. We graduated probably 20 to 30 of those a year. Enrollment's gone down, it's going back up. We have some new reporting dashboards. I don't know if I trust them or not. I looked at a couple of different ones, but we currently have 53 students, and we want to get it back up over 100. We graduate 100% of the students.
Thank you.
Further questions? Elliot Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Gardner, for being here. One question I had is the students that are in your program, are they students that come into the program directly from high school, or do you find that people come to Marshall, learn about security, cybersecurity, and decide to change programs?
It's both. We get a lot, and the majority of them come straight from high school. But we also have people who go into, I think a lot of our students now are working for Expel, for example, were nursing students who decided that nursing wasn't for them and they wanted to do something exciting. So why not cybersecurity? So that's where we got them. So the answer is both.
Also, do you find that there are any good programs within our high schools that point people in the direction of your program?
Cyber Patriot is one of those programs inside high schools. Also, our OTC sometimes is a good way of introducing our students to us. We also do work with Civil Air Patrol. One of the things we do as far as outreach is we talk to high schools and we talk to students as young as middle school about dangers of the internet. So we're doing our best.
And what type of starting salaries are some of these students?
Well, we joke, but it's true they make more than I do. They're going to make over 100K probably in their first few years, and their starting is probably 60, 70, 80, depending on where they go. So it's very fast promotion.
Is there anything else you think that we could be doing or that we could help with promoting or advertising what it is that you do to get more students in your door?
I would love for that to happen. I'm not sure exactly how. I think you all being here today is part of that, to let them know that we do exist. And if you have any questions or problems, to let us know. But right, we would love to have more students. Hopefully now that COVID's over, allegedly, maybe we can see more students on campus. But one of the things we're doing, we're also moving our programs online. Our graduate program will be totally online, hopefully within the next year. Our undergraduate program is going to go probably 50% online, because the students want it, meeting with students where they are. Even though they might be here on campus, they still like online classes. So they're not feeling all that well some morning, for various reasons, they can, they can log in and do it. So we have not seen any watering down of the outcomes teaching online. And I think it's exciting. The other thing is we're starting to see mid-career people working in other industries or want to get a raise or promotion to come back to school. And we can offer those online as well for those. So that's part of the idea of putting things on.
Just one moment, point of privilege. Staff has alerted me that anyone who wishes to, they're actually holding the buses for the Lily's Place tour and I think the Beach Wharf tour as well. Any member wishes, no. And if not, at least since we've announced it, they'll know whether or not they can go ahead and send the buses. So they were holding those probably for another 3-4 minutes, staff advised me. All right, further questions. This presenter, I saw Delegate Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Professor Gardner. Just curious, do you see a lot of growth in this field of work, or is this a field that's steady?
Huge amount of growth because every year we get hacked. The next hack is always the worst one, and we're losing more and more money. Basically, we also find that employers are saying other programs are turning out students who can't do the work once they get done. That's, I think, our secret sauce is that we do train people who are practitioners, and when they get out of school, they can work immediately in the field. I think we need more of that. If you go to cyberseek.org, there's a heat map of the different cyber openings, cyber security jobs that are open. And I don't remember those numbers off the top of my head. I should have printed that out. I'm sorry. In Virginia, it's over 100,000. It's a lot of on-field jobs because we can't graduate people fast, and they pay very well. I've been thinking about them.
No, you're right now.
Yeah. You offer associates, bachelor's, master's.
We have a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree.
No associates.
Institution, no associates.
Okay. And certifications, do you like CISSP, CEH?
Currently, we do certifications on the cyber side, so magnet forensics. We also, students get a certification in Cellbrite, which is the cyber forensics tool that's used by the FBI and other law enforcement to examine phones and mobile devices. On the cybersecurity side, our first class is a class called Cyber Forensics Security 200, where the students get the material to take the Security Plus and the A+ test. But we don't actually give those tests. On the forensic side, we actually give them as part of the curriculum, and that's something that moving forward we're going to start looking at. And we offer the certificate as a part of the degree program.
Do you cover any kind of human-enabled cyber attacks?
Yeah, my specialty is social engineering.
Okay.
So we cover social engineering. We've had Kevin Metnick speak to the students before. Hector Monsegur, the leader of LawSec, Cebu, has talked to my students before after he got out of jail and told them not to do it badly. So we do talk about that. That's really the biggest hole in cybersecurity is you can easily trick people to an attachment. My mother fell for this. I just read a book called Building Information Security Awareness Program, sent it to my mother. A week later, she had been scammed into your AV is out of date and you need to pay us $100. So that took about 2 weeks to unravel. But it happens every day, and we do cover social engineering.
Can you tell me, is Marshall University, your office and everything, doing anything for the state in terms of critical infrastructure protection, continuity of government, operations?
We're going to the Security Operations Center. We also have partnerships with CISA, which is the Critical Infrastructure, Federal Critical Infrastructure people. And we're getting ready to do a table talk here at Marshall University next month about cyber resilience.
Are you working with the state office as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
You have a lot of graduates working in state offices. So
do you do any work with the Quantico FBI lab?
we have had Quanticos speak to us in the past. We have a conference here called the Appalachian Institute for Digital Evidence, and examiners from Quanticos come down and talk about the things they've had to do to piece hard drives back together in serious FBI cases. Hard drives that have been merged, burned, cut into pieces. So they've come and spoken at that conference before. So yeah, we do.
Okay. And then, do you do any classified government work?
Yes. So I've been in that position. Most of what we do now is considered public trust because it's law enforcement sensitive. So we do work with state police, et cetera. You also work with Fusion Center, work with the Operation Underground Railroad, which is this organization that goes out and tries to save kids overseas and work with local law enforcement. We've had a number of successes with that. We had 40 child victims rescued and 10 suspected traffickers arrested recently. And then with Cyber Command, we're probably all going to end up with secret top secret clearances just because of the nature of work.
Understand. Thank you very much.
And they're paying for it. That's it. It's expensive.
Further questions, Mr. President? If not, Mr. Gardner, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And to the members, he has offered to take us over and do a tour of their facilities following the meeting, if you would have a desire.
Very short walk.
Certainly. With that, is there any miscellaneous business coming before the committee? If not, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity as a member here from Cabell County to welcome you to Cabell County, to welcome you to Huntington and to Marshall University. It used to be part of my district, not anymore. But welcome, and we certainly hope it will be very hospitable to you. If you need anything at all, call me. I'm happy to help and coordinate, as I'm sure everyone here. Any further miscellaneous business? If not, recognize Co-Chairman Queen for first motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee adjourn.
Co-Chairman Queen moves to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, stay. You guys have it. We're adjourned.